Today, President Park Geun-hye arrives in Washington for the Nuclear Security Summit. She'll be meeting with the leaders of the United States, China and Japan on the sidelines of the event. The official campaigning period for the April 13th general election has begun. Candidates have less than 2 weeks to win the hearts of voters ahead of Election Day. First, the G5 hits the shelves. LG Electronics hopes its latest smart device can propel it up the sales ranks in a saturated smartphone market. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello to our viewers around the world. It's 6 a.m. on Thursday, March 31st here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this morning, President Park Geun-hye has just arrived in Washington ahead of the fourth and final Nuclear Security Summit. The South Korean leader is slated to hold a series of bilateral and trilateral summit talks on the sidelines to keep the heat on North Korea. Now, Song Ji-sun, who is traveling with the president, filed this report.
President Park will have a busy day ahead of her on Thursday, starting off with summit talks with U.S. President Barack Obama. Trilateral talks with Obama and Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe will follow, with all three leaders discussing countermeasures and sanctions on North Korea's nuclear aggression. After that, President Park and Abe will hold a one-on-one session. President Park is set to then meet Chinese President Xi Jinping for an in-depth conversation on North Korea. At a plenary session of the Nuclear Security Summit on Friday, 50-plus state representatives will assess their achievements since the last summit in 2014 and adopt a joint communique for increased nuclear security. President Park's focus will shift to business when she jets off to Mexico City on Saturday, flanked by a delegation of 145 South Korean businessmen. Seoul is seeking to expand its presence in Mexico's infrastructure and development projects and lock down greater business opportunities through the Korea-Mexico Business Forum and direct consultations with Mexican buyers. Before flying home, President Park will invite Korean residents in Mexico to a dinner. A cultural event promoting the Korean Wave, or Hallyu, is also on her schedule. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
Now, one of the top priorities for global leaders in Washington will be discussions on North Korea's nuclear and missile threats. But persuading Pyongyang to give up its nukes is not an official agenda item. So, if that's the case, what's the common goal of the 2016 Nuclear Security Summit? Gwon-swa has the details.
It all began with U.S. President Barack Obama's Nobel Prize-winning speech in Prague 2009. In which he pursued a world without nuclear weapons. He said nuclear terrorism poses the biggest threat to global security. And so, the Nuclear Security Summit was born in 2010. First held in Washington, 2 years later in Seoul, and again 2 later in The Hague. The curtains will close at the fourth and final round back in the U.S. Capitol. The essence of the summit lies in finding ways to hinder nuclear materials and weapons getting into the wrong hands, in particular terrorists' hands. Failing to do so could result in terrorists using conventional radioactive explosives, also known as dirty bombs, seizing intact nuclear weapons, stealing or buying highly enriched uranium or plutonium to make a nuclear bomb, or attacking or sabotaging nuclear facilities. At the 2016 summit, leaders from 52 countries and 4 international organizations will highlight the achievements from previous meetings, such as the reduction of individual countries' nuclear materials, and aim to retrieve a more sustainable security architecture to effectively carry out commitments in the future. A communique will be adopted, as well as a separate plan in support of international bodies such as the UN, International Atomic Energy Agency, and Interpol. National implementation plans will be presented too. Although this is the last summit of its kind, talks are expected to continue in various forms, as terror acts are becoming not only cunning day by day, but also more dangerous with the help of nuclear weapons. According to data, 31 countries are operating more than 440 nuclear plants. There is enough highly enriched uranium and plutonium on Earth to create 110,000 nuclear weapons. And every 2 days, nuclear or radioactive material disappears, is stolen or smuggled somewhere in the world. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
And just to say, we'll be bringing you extensive coverage of the 2016 Nuclear Security Summit here on Arirang TV. So for the latest as it happens in Washington, do stay tuned over the next couple of days. Now back here in Korea, the official campaigning period for the April 13th general election began at the stroke of midnight. But on-the-street campaigning will likely start from dawn this morning, so in the next hour or so. The parties spent Wednesday finalizing their plans to win as many seats in the National Assembly as possible. Ji Myung-gil has the details.
The ruling Saenuri Party's chairman Kim Moo-sung on Wednesday outlined the party's strategy for winning victory in the upcoming April 13th general election.
The Saenuri Party will revive Korea's economy, resolve the job shortage, and work towards minimizing wealth polarization through well-made policies.
Kim said the party will encourage companies to expand their investments, reform the rigid labor market to create jobs, and provide financial support to private businesses with good growth potential. The main opposition Minju Party of Korea's interim leader Kim Jong-un said he would give the most support to candidates who plan to forge alliances with their minor opposition party counterparts to field a single candidate in districts where more than one opposition candidate is running.
In order for the opposition to win more seats than the conservatives, we need the people's support. People want us to forge alliances in certain districts to avoid splitting the liberal vote.
Without such alliances, the party believes it could suffer a major setback in the capital region and other metropolitan areas where multiple opposition candidates are competing against each other and someone from the Saenuri Party. Meanwhile, minor opposition People's Party co-leader An Chol-soo attended a ceremony at the National Assembly to thank and encourage the candidates who are representing the party in Seoul and Gyeonggi-do province.
Through this election, we will open an era of a multi-party system in Korea. We will give back intrinsic rights to the people and put an end to the two-party system that has monopolized our political landscape for so many years.
And also said the party is aiming to win 10 seats in the region and 40 seats in all nationwide. It needs to secure at least 20 seats to form a negotiation bloc within the National Assembly. Ji Myung-gil, Arirang News.
Now, the South Korean military has unveiled its 5-year defense plan. For one, Seoul will spend nearly $2.6 billion to introduce new weapons to better counter the threats posed by North Korea. Our Defense Ministry correspondent Kim Hyun-bin has the details.
South Korea's Defense Ministry on Wednesday unveiled its 5-year defense plan for 2017 through 2021, worth $192 billion, which represents a 5% increase over the previous plan.
The main focus of the defense build-up plan is to make ourselves better able to adapt to the changing defense environment and enhance our independent defense capabilities.
During the 5-year period, South Korea will aim to implement the air defense and interception system known as Kill Chain and Korean Air and Missile Defense. Korea plans to complete installation of the systems by the mid-2020s, before Seoul retakes wartime operational control of Allied forces from Washington. South Korea also plans to develop ground-to-ground GPS-guided munitions to counter Pyongyang's multiple launch rocket system. The Defense Ministry said the system is the most imminent security threat to South Korea from the north, as there is no way to counter the weaponry at this point. North Korea recently test-launched several rounds from its newly developed 300mm multiple rocket launcher, which has a range of up to 200 kilometers and can target half of the South Korean peninsula when fired from the border.
Ground-to-ground munitions are very precise. They will neutralize hidden enemy equipment with their bunker-busting abilities. It will have a strong effect.
The ground-to-ground counter-artillery guided munitions have a range of 120 kilometers. The South Korean military is set to finish development by 2018, and the weapon will be deployed by 2019. The 5-year plan also includes the introduction of an anti-ballistic early warning radar system and carbon fiber bombs that can black out North Korea's electricity supply. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Jack Lew says only sanctions can bring about change in North Korea's nuclear calculus. Speaking at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace on Wednesday, the U.S. official called for the stringent implementation of the latest UN Security Councils against the North. Lew noted that the U.S. is working closely with China and others to ensure the toughest ever sanctions are effective. The Secretary reiterated that robust international cooperation is the only way to convince North Korea to stop its illicit activities. He noted that the sanctions are a testament to the world's resolve to stop the North's nuclear and missile programs. A team of U.S. defense analysts has claimed that it's possible North Korea is close to developing a miniaturized nuclear warhead and the means to deliver it on an intercontinental ballistic missile. Speaking on the BBC Current Affairs show Newsnight, Robert Monks from IHS Jane's Intelligence Review said the North's nuclear weapons program may have already reached a significant milestone by designing a viable re-entry vehicle capable of carrying a miniaturized warhead thousands of kilometers. Analysts were able to reach the conclusions based on computer modeling of information gleaned from a news report of Kim Jong-un visiting a missile factory earlier this month. Now, the second strand of evidence comes from satellite and radar imagery that shows new roads and earthworks that could indicate excavations for new nuclear tests. There has also been increased activity at a plutonium processing plant in the past few months. Now, the G5, the latest smartphone from Korean tech giant LG Electronics, hits the shelves on this Thursday. Watchers say the phone's innovative features could make it a big hit with consumers. But will it help LG smash the dominance of Apple and Samsung? Now, Kim Min-ji has the details.
Fun is what LG Electronics is promoting with its new G5, which hit shelves on Thursday. With the price tag of roughly $700 in Korea, it's the industry's first modular smartphone, which means users can connect various add-ons to instantly improve camera or sound functions. Aside from the modules, other accessories provide the user with an entirely new experience. With the 360 cam, I can capture everything around me thanks to two 180-degree lenses on the front and back of the device. LG says it was thinking outside the box this time around.
Our aim was to get away from the conventional smartphone and give users an experience they've never had before. We'll continue to develop unique products to differentiate ourselves from the competition.
And so far, LG seems to be on track with the majority of consumers who've tried out the product already satisfied.
I like that there's two types of lenses that can take both wide and original shots. It's easy to change from one mode to another.
It's an extremely modern design, so I think many young people will like it. I need to change my phone soon, and it's impressive enough for me to consider it as one of my options.
But will it be enough to turn the tide? LG's local rival Samsung Electronics recently began sales of its new models, while Apple has released lower-end smartphones in emerging markets. On top of that, fierce competition from Chinese rivals has eroded LG's share in the global market. Analysts say although the G5 turned out well, it all boils down to how many units LG can shift.
It remains to be seen whether the older generation will buy the G5 due to the modules. Besides, the market is already saturated, so a lot depends on how well LG can appeal to and target the people planning to switch phones. Now that Samsung's phones are already out, LG should use this time well to market its products before Apple releases its next iPhone.
The early popularity of the G5 will likely help LG turn a profit in the second quarter of this year. But analysts say down the road, the company with the best two-track approach, namely expanding production of lower-end phones while turning a profit from high-end models, will be best placed to ride the wave of the flooded smartphone market. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Now, the head of tech giant Microsoft has proclaimed that chatbots are the next big thing and will have a profound impact as previous landmark shifts in the IT sector. Speaking at a corporate event in San Francisco on Wednesday, the company's CEO, Satya Nadella, said chatbots are on par with past paradigm shifts like the graphical user interface, the web browser, and the iPhone-driven adoption of the touch screen. He said the concept is taking the power of human language and applying it more persuasively to computing activities. Companies like Facebook, Slack, and Microsoft have been investing heavily in chatbots, or so-called conversations as a platform, in the hope of making them accessible to non-technical users. Well, that's all we have for now on this Thursday morning here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broom. Thank you, as always, for tuning into our early morning edition of Arirang News. We'll be back throughout the day with more news bulletins. So until then, goodbye.